Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Flip podcast, the podcast for phone flippers. So today, guys, we have a Recelerator student, Kevin Price. Been trying to get him on for a while, but he just went full time, so he was able to finally make it. So super excited to have him on, and looking forward to diving in today. Got a lot to talk about with Kevin. He's been doing this for quite a while, almost 2 years now, I think.
Over 2 years, yeah.
Over 2 years, yeah. And yeah, let's rock and roll. So Kevin, talk about yourself a little bit, man. How did you get into phone flipping? I know, you were in our free Facebook group, I think, when you joined. Jared reached out and from let's start from the very beginning. How'd you learn about phone flipping?
Well, the very beginning was me. I was going to college in Morgantown, West Virginia, and I was working as a graduate teaching assistant. So I had 48 students. And for some reason, they decided to, the teachers or whoever designed the curriculum, it was just all writing assignments. So every single week, assuming everyone did the homework, I also had 48 papers to grade. Uh,
Really?
Thankfully, well, I don't know if I can say thankfully. It's a good and a bad thing that not everyone did the homework. But I had that responsibility. I was a full-time graduate student and I was kind of burnt out and I was searching online side hustles that basically from the lens of like, or perspective of like, I need something that can make me money with in a short amount of time because I don't have a lot of time and I don't have a lot of energy. So I came across phone flipping on one of the many lists where usually you come across things where it's like, hey, you can take all these surveys and make like 5 cents. And I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
not going to do anything for me. But then I saw phone flipping. And I was like, well, maybe that will do something for me. Um, and I think I got on Jeff Duhan's group. Yeah, Smart Flippers. And I just messaged in there and I said, how do I get started? And then Josh Holiday hit me up.
Oh, nice.
He's the one, so I got to shout out him. Thank you, Josh. I will forever be grateful for you because my life has changed.
Need to bring
Uh,
him on the podcast.
what's that?
Need to bring him on the podcast.
For sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's in a rebuilding phase, but he's got some momentum right now. Um, but I wanted to share that story because I thought it was really cool because basically, like, I was really busy and burnt out and couldn't do a lot. And Josh got me on board, and I kind of was super skeptical on the call, and I was just waiting, like, when is he going to try to sell me? When is he going to try to, like, where's the pitch? And towards the end of it, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to get you on a free coaching call. And then I got on a free coaching call. And then at the end of that call, I was like, I'm going to give you a discount on my course. And then I got into the community, just started asking tons of questions with the community. And that's exactly what started me in this business and what launched my momentum.
Love that. That's fantastic. So where along the way did you find our community?
So I worked with Josh maybe for like 8 months or so. I don't remember exactly, but as you guys know, the more you get involved in this kind of niche community, the more enmeshed you get, and there are just like so many people out there that you start to meet. And then I think I just came across your videos. I remember um, I had my own thoughts, of course, like everyone who teaches and coaches and is a student has their own thoughts on how to approach the industry. And in my opinion, there are a lot of ways to play the game.
Yep.
The thing I love about your curriculum is that you respect that. And, if someone wants to just do cameras, they can just do cameras. If someone just wants to do consoles, like Mr. Matt over here, they can just do consoles. But not only that, I remember watching a video where you kind of described like these are the three things that'll help you build a business or something. And I just remember thinking, those are all the thoughts that I've been having about this business and how, it should be approached. So however I found that video, I then found your community on Facebook, and then I found the courses that were offered, and then I just pretty much jumped in right away.
Love that. So yeah, I'm usually about 2 levels down on YouTube. Which is where I prefer to be, honestly. But so you started in it, you started growing, and one thing I do, one thing me and Matt have noticed is whenever somebody joins like Recelerator, the first month or 2 months, like everybody that person asks a bunch of questions, right? And we welcome that, right?
Yep.
And I want to roll back to something you said about like the curriculum we have is like, I don't tell you what to do. I recommend based on experience and what I've seen, and that's it. Like, if you just want to do phones, great. If you just want to do consoles, great. The process still works no matter what.
Yeah.
Like if you start conversations, you close deals and make money, and that's just how it works. Like like you could only flip cameras and do the same thing. That's the beautiful thing I love about flipping electronics in general is that. But whenever somebody like joins something like Recelerator, it's malleable, right? Like we kind of hone in on what you're good at already, and then just focus in, and then you get to choose later on, expand out if you want to, right? And that's and that sounds like that, and that happened with you. Like we saw it was just iPhones in the beginning, I believe, and then it expanded to, I think you're doing a couple of Meta Quests now too. I think I've seen a couple of those photos.
Yeah, I mean, these days I haven't done a lot recently, but yeah, when I first entered your program, that was actually one of the primary things that drew me to the program. Was all I was doing, all the community that I was integrated in was just phones.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. But at that time, when I was in Morgantown, West Virginia, I'm dealing with a small population, and I was already kind of just like hunting all over marketplace, doing so many reach outs every single day with just phones and running ads and not really getting where I needed to be. So yeah, that was one of the big draws.
Love that, man. So let's talk a little bit about what does your typical day look like now? You've been doing this a while. You just went full time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's actually talk about that at first. Like, you've been talking about going full time for a while, and you made that your goal. And I think once you hit 5,000 in profit in 1 month, I think it was 5,000. You were like, "This is real. This could be a thing." Let's talk about that. Like, what was the transition from like, all right, I have this job, but I want to go full time?
Well, as you guys know, nothing's ever simple with me. So it's more than, like, is this profitable? It's, is this sustainable for the way I want to live my life as well, which is I've been seeking balance for a long time, and I've been reflecting on as I've been, approaching full time. And now that I'm sitting in my first week of full time, I've been reflecting on like what I have been seeking for so many years, because it feels like I've been searching for something for a very long time, like over a decade at this point. And it just feels like I don't vibe with the current way society is set up. And I want to have more freedom to live the life that I want, the way that I want. And I want to live a bit of a life of service without having to worry about having to make money doing so. Like if I want to lead meditation classes, for example. So I really struggled with the decision. I just wanted to frame it that way, to say that I struggled with the decision of going full time, because a lot of people in this industry say you have to hustle or die. And that's still something that is, in my heart right now, that I'm, I've been through an emotional roller coaster within this past week of my first week of going full time. We'll just put it that way. And I'm still trying to figure out, what do my days look like, and how do I utilize this money-making machine, what can be a money-making machine, to, fuel the life that I want. So the process of getting there to making the decision of going full-time, I had to battle those thoughts that it wasn't possible to live that balanced life with this, hustle or die culture that is, electronic flipping. But ultimately, I think it took, interestingly, me getting a 40-hour-a-week job and sitting in an office every day and staring at my computer screen every day, just thinking, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could be doing that. And then seeing those numbers when I'm on my profit tracking sheet go up and up and up, and then just looking around the office and being like, I'm being neglected, and I've been, here for 9 months at this place. And just like, man, if I go full time, I can just wake up whenever I want, and then I can meditate. I could not look at my phone for the first hour or two of the day. I can get in some exercise. I can walk out in nature, and then I can start my day. And then I can start doing my reach outs, and then I can start answering leads and do whatever I want.
Yep.
And when I get sick of staring at a computer, I can go walk outside and go for a walk for an hour if I want to.
Yeah.
And so that's the life I'm trying to work towards, but that's kind of a bit about the path that got me there.
I love that. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. When you're just able to just go out and have a walk.
Yeah.
I think I've been full time for a while now, and I do that on basically a daily basis at this point, because it's a very clearing out thing, just going on a 45-minute walk. Because for the first couple hours of my day, I'll responding to leads, putting out fires, like that's just the general day-to-day for me. And I guess sometimes I forget that I get to go on the walk now because I don't have a full-time job. Like, it's interesting. That just kind of spoke to me there. But a couple other things that, I want to ask, man, is I know you're probably not fully organized on a day-to-day yet, and you never really will fully be either. Like, it's gonna, things are always going to come up and stuff like that. But what does your current day-to-day look like since you've gone full-time?
Yeah, it is already evolved. And I feel like it's going to evolve more. Right now, it's very loose. And I am trying to narrow down what all of my processes are and things that I want to do on a weekly basis. For example, if I want to play Ultimate Frisbee every Saturday, maybe I want to start my day Saturdays at 1 o'clock, and I can give myself, a couple hours in the morning to play. But the kind of loose structure that I've given myself is that I do have that morning routine that I've been working on that I told you guys about. So I wake up when I want. I do want to eventually have like I go to sleep at this time and I wake up at this time, but for now it's like a little loose. And I make sure that regardless of what I do, I minimize my screen time in the morning. I go and get a workout in, even if it's just going for a walk. I get at least 10 to 20 minutes of sunshine. I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes, and then I have a good meal, and then I start my day. And I feel like that is sustainable for me. Like, I want to tighten it up and I want to provide more structure, but if I just do that, I feel like if I just do that and then I bookend it with, a nighttime routine where I'm not looking at a screen for like an hour before bed or something, and I'm, meditating before then, and prioritizing my sleep, I feel like that's sustainable, even if like the approximate like 10 to 7 is what I've given myself. It's just like all hustle, if that's just my time, where I'm just like, I'm doing the reach outs and everything. And right now I'm doing things like building business cards and trying to like get Google My Business set up and like lay down the foundation. But if 10 to 7 is the time when I work, and then I just like, bookend it with some healthy behaviors, that's where I'm currently at. And I feel like I could do that for a long time.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. I mean, I'm right now I'm usually about 9. It's funny, it's 9 to 5. Like, that's kind of my open window to work, I guess. But there's a lot of stuff in between that too. I would say my day on flipping specifically doesn't actually start till 12 or 1. Like when I'm meeting up with the first couple of customers at 12 and then at 5 again, and like that's usually the way my day goes. But I also got calls and stuff in between normally. But so let's talk about getting to 5,000 in profit a month. Like, I know that was a journey for you. So I want you to kind of, for the people that are listening, as a one-man show type flipper, what is it like, finally getting to that point? And what did it take?
It took not giving up. At the end of the day, it really just took me to keep going. I mean, of course, there's the other things too. There's the knowledge and the skills that you guys provide. I've learned something from everyone. I've learned something from Josh's group. I've learned something from your group. I've worked with other coaches and I've learned things from them. And so what it's taken really is a willingness to learn, a willingness to, be a bit coachable and apply the learnings and challenge limiting beliefs. Like, for example, one thing that's coming up for me in this moment is you talk about the scheduled meetup model, and a lot of people knock on it and say it's not possible. And I was one of them, I had the experience of like, I started basically when people would come to my inbox, I would put the power of the conversation in their hands. And then I learned to shift that and understand, like, they're coming to my inbox, they can work on my time. And eventually I forgot, how do I want to say this? I was approaching the initial conversations from the perspective or energy of like, I am a guy trying to buy these phones and trying to make money. And now I'm approaching it from the lens of I'm a business and these people are coming to me and I provide services when I deem it to be possible, right? Because that's what a business does.
Yeah.
And so that allowed me to change the way I negotiated too. So, learning the negotiation from you and Aaron, how to keep the customer engaged, was really valuable as well. Because, again, before comparing myself to how I was in the beginning, sometimes I just wouldn't know how to follow up. I didn't have multiple ways to say no. I didn't have ways to keep the customer talking, and that's a huge part of it. I wasn't upselling, so that's another huge part. And what's coming up for me again in this moment is part of all of that I'm talking about ultimately is the process of learning how to be good with people and how to talk with people in this business and how to build those relationships too. Because again, the more you keep people talking, the more emotionally engaged they are. And then ultimately, when you get to the meetup, there are things to master and optimize there. You don't want to just like be a robot who's running this diagnostic test and not speaking to the customer with your head down, and they can just see your forehead. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't want to do business with this guy again, right? So there's the process of learning and knowledge. There's the process of building resilience and taking the hits and taking the losses on certain deals. I've been conned out of $700 where someone, in retrospect, basically tested whether or not I was vulnerable to manipulation because they like showed me, they were like, hey, I need this extra money. Like, my mother has diabetes. Here's her glucose right now. And in hindsight, I'm like, this motherfucker was planting the seed. I don't know if we could curse on the podcast. My apologies if we can't. But he was testing my vulnerability. He was testing whether or not I was a good person from the beginning so that he could then try to gain my trust and con me. He brought his kids to meetups. He brought his girlfriend to meetups. He was doing all these things intentionally to manipulate.
Multiple meetups?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and the first couple went good, and then he started asking for money, and then that money didn't come back to me. And so there's the process of going through those mistakes where, I did that, but I also bought like a $400 Apple Watch and it ended up being fake. All of those little hiccups where I lost money, I had so many thoughts of quitting.
Yeah.
So that's why I say at the end of the day, it takes not giving up. But eventually, then, fast forward to where I've been at recently. And I think getting the full-time job was really helpful because I was just burnt out and I was working in a low population area and I was building debt and I just wasn't seeing progress. I was putting in all this effort and there just wasn't the reward at the end of that effort. So that became really painful. So I needed, interestingly, even though the 40-hour-a-week job ultimately, was a pain in the ass and it ended up like motivating me to get the hell out of there, it also provided me the structure and security of a steady income and the predictability of that, to not freak out about my leads, to not come from a place of desperation because I have income in the negotiations. So that changed my negotiations too. And then eventually building up my energy reserves and taking care of myself. And you guys know I've been through mental health journeys as well. So that steadiness and security allowed me a place to work on that as well. Plus insurance, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But then, I got to the point where I was like, oh, I actually have the energy and somehow and know-how to set up meetings on my lunch break. And then I started meeting people at lunch. And then I started meeting people utilizing your scheduled meetup model. I can meet between 5 to 7 p.m. at the Starbucks. And if that doesn't work, I can, transition and, use maybe like be flexible and meet them somewhere else, right? But that's where I start.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know I just talked a lot, but I feel like that whole journey is important for people to hear because, it was a long one and there are a lot of ups and downs and it does change.
Love that, dude. So I got a quick question. A lot of people say that the scheduled meetup model doesn't work. Like a lot. There's a lot of like I mean, there's people out. There's just a lot of people. Let's just say that. But in your experience, I mean, number one, you do have to be good at negotiating.
Yeah.
Like you have to be good at talking to people, right? In your like, you probably weren't doing it in the beginning, and then you probably got no-showed a few times, and then just rethought about it again. I'm assuming because that's how it happened to me. That's how it got built. It was actually built by my wife. Funny enough, because we had just had our first child, and I was running out 9 p.m. trying to meet people, trying to make it all work. My kid is 6 months old, and they would no-show me, and that was happening a lot. And my wife was just like, "Why can't you just do that thing we learned from Amway, where you just give them 2 times to meet?" And I'm like, "I can't do that. I can't do that. I gotta meet them whenever immediately to get the cash, and all of that." And then I got no-showed one more time, and I was like, "Screw this! Like, this sucks. Like, I'm wasting so much time. My wife is definitely not happy with me."
Right.
I was like, "All right." And this was back when I was in Beaumont. It's 12 and 4 every day. That's it. And then it started working. I would start meeting people at, and maybe you started seeing this, the lineups, where you start meeting multiple people at one place at the same time. Has that happened to you yet?
I mean, it's more rare, but it certainly has happened when the leads are flowing. Yeah.
Dude, that feels good too, huh?
It does. And it's also confusing. I've accidentally like double or triple booked people. And I'm like, well, this is awkward. But also,
actually, I love it when that happens because like whenever one of them walks in and I'm already working with one, dude, it just makes you look so good to that customer.
It does.
Like, you're meeting multiple people all at the same time, taking care of everybody. Like I remember the first time that ever happened, I had 5 people meeting me at the same time.
Wow.
Like, it was wild. Like, and I was really nervous. And I was just like, okay, let me just go one at a time, do all my checks, and I would just be like, yeah, you guys can sit right over there. I'll be done with this person here in a minute. I'm just doing my checks and everything. And they were like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll just get a coffee. That's why I meet in Starbucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the baristas and all of them, they're cool with it. But why do you think some people knock that?
Well, I've wondered whether or not I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I have wondered whether or not the location does play a role, so for example, one of the arguments is that, younger and hungrier competition is going to take your lead. And maybe I've just been blessed with a certain location where that's not the case. And And I think that does play a part. I wouldn't say that it's a deal breaker or it's something that makes it impossible. I would say that it is something that, where you could lose some leads, sure. And I think that is, I think it's ultimately fear-based. I think people are just scared that they're going to lose all their leads. And it's also something that unless you've challenged that thought, it is the popular belief, right? It is the majority of people in the industry believe that.
Hustle culture, yeah.
Yeah, so if you, unless you've challenged it and you're willing to, have that even personality trait to go against the status quo, and seeing those results, then, you're probably just going to go ahead with, the mom mentality potentially. But it's also just really challenging. It's like you get caught up in what your reality is, and your reality is often starting by catering to your customers' needs rather than your own. And I think you can kind of just get caught up in that. And I was actually thinking about this today. Like if you don't, there are so many times in this industry where you can get caught up in the momentum of whatever you're doing, and you can be doing things not the most optimal or efficient way. And if you don't stop and slow down and assess where you're at and where you want to go, you could just keep on, falling down that hill, and it's not a smooth fall,
Yeah. I think the challenge there is then like if something's on tilt, let's say it's not chaotic yet, but it's headed in that direction, and that starts to normalize, that's a really dangerous place because it is the antithesis. It's the exact opposite of work-life balance. That hopefully the reason we're making all this money is so that we can have more time and do things for the people we care about with the people we care about, as opposed to just being out there hustling. I remember having a whole conversation with you about this, Kevin. I think we had a lot of conversations from start to finish of this season of life. There was a lot there that was not just solely focused on like the business. We had conversations about business too, but a lot of it was about I think the things that are in sway and persuaded by that business. And so I feel like there's an interesting like sort of like element within all of this too that is driven by a scarcity mindset or like fear. Like I'm not going to get that deal. Someone's going to steal it or take it from me, which is like, okay, wait, how many phones are out there and how many people are really trying that hard at this game in your specific zip code within a 20-mile radius, right? It's like, I think it gives too much power to the other people out there to be like, really, is that really going to happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's such a good point.
It's such a hypothetical thing that I think has to like just go die. It's like, okay, we can just let that go, be whatever it wants to be, because at the end of the day, like I think the people that would be, out there chasing those deals, if that guy's really going to get my deal out from under me, okay, for starters, good guy, maybe you deserve it more than I do. But but at the same time, like I think ultimately that guy is going to end up wanting being like doing things a much easier, more simplified way, because again, that way of thinking and that way of doing and that way of hustling is not sustainable long term. You can have seasons of intensified focus, but then eventually you have to stop and go, wait, what am I doing here? Why am I trying to reinvent the wheel? Like there's got to be a better way. And everybody hits that crossroad eventually, like Chris, myself, Kevin, like, and so Kevin, when you hit that crossroad, like, I don't know, it sounds like you went through that like a boss, like you know, you definitely thought through it, and maybe you overthought it, because I think you and I have a propensity sometimes to be overthinkers, but I'm glad you made it through that. And obviously like now you have the experience to tell you otherwise. It's like, oh yeah, like people can meet me on my terms, because why can't they? Do they have a better reason why I should be going to them?
It dawned on me one day on this. It was like, I have the cash.
Yeah.
They need me more than I need them.
Yeah.
And like once you like get into that mindset, that's what changes everything. It's like, do people do pawn shops drive to people? No, they don't.
Not that I've seen.
Right. So like you always go to them, right? And most things you go to the gym doesn't come to you, you go to it, right? Like all of these things, you go to them. Like if you're giving them cash, you're giving them what they need, right? So I mean that was just my perspective that finally just dawned on me, and honestly it gave me a lot more power in my
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, I have what you need, come get it.
Yeah.
You know? And it's far, dude, I'll give you $5 for gas. Like that was a game changer, by the way. That was a big one. Me and Tyler figured that one out. But like all those little things, right? Like you figure out how to get people to come to you, and I don't drive to people very often anymore, unless it's like a $200 profit.
Let's go. Yeah. Same.
And
About
that's
the same.
rare. Like the last time I actually drove to somebody, I made a mistake because I met at a location that was unfamiliar, didn't know if it had Wi-Fi, and I screwed up. The phone wouldn't connect to Wi-Fi, and I was like, oh, this place just must not have Wi-Fi. It was like a Mexican grocery store, and I was like, and I'm like, this sucks, man. Like, and it just brought back all the memories again of all the other times that it had sucked. And because every time I meet a Starbucks in my area, I'm in control.
Yep.
Every time. I basically say what goes, what happens. Your phone is in worse condition than you thought. You drove to me, it's not my loss,
Yep.
So
I've found a kind of flexible model to some degree, where I have several locations now that I've learned my place that I do know, that I am familiar with, and they are in different parts of town. And so if you want to meet me on the west side of town, I can drive over here. If you want to meet me on the southeast side of town, I have this location. Want to meet me, I have that location. And then the other thing is, if I'm coming to you, I'm charging you for it. It's going to be at least $20. If you're coming to me, I could give you $10 for gas if you really need to, but that's not where I'm going to start in the conversation.
Yeah, right. That's an upsell, right? Like that's an upsell for them, right? It's a way to convince them of coming to you. So I love talking about the scheduled meetup model, but like, what are some other things that, like you just learned over time through experience, and like you obviously learned a good amount of stuff from the curriculum. What are some other things that have kind of stood out that you've recently started implementing or have implemented overall?
I mean, one of the things is just understanding kind of what we were talking about before, that you kind of have to, in as much as possible, take your emotions out of it and just put in the work. And like this is something that I've been struggling with this week, is like, I know that I should be doing the 20 reach outs every single day, and I haven't done them. What the hell, Kevin? Like the work that you need to do, and you're not doing it. But then some other days I'm speaking to myself through the lens of like, yeah, you know what to do, and you're going to pick it up when you need to, when the time comes. And for now, maybe you can give yourself a break this first week. So picking up the mindset with what you have to approach the business. But also the knowledge and understanding that if you put in the work, good things will come. If I am, and then also that different times of the year, provide different opportunity. Like obviously we're at a very crucial time right now where everyone was pre-ordering their iPhones this morning, and they're pre-ordering them as we speak.
Yep.
And so people are going to be upgrading their phones and selling their old ones. And then that's going to roll into Christmas time. So this season of the year is going to be very good for us. So that's another thing that I've learned. This month and last month could be challenging. And so what do you do when it's slow? When your ads are slow, you increase your reach outs.
Yeah.
What if that's not working? Then now that I'm full-time, what I plan on doing is whether I'm doing it like on a schedule, which eventually I want to get to, or I'm just doing it kind of like going with the flow. in my day, I want to start hitting up pawn shops and I want to start hitting up other stores, like, so these are all of the ways you can build a business. I built, my repeats are a little dry right now, but there were recent months. This is actually something that's scaring me right now. But again, I understand how to handle it and how to adapt. The past couple of months, like there were months where my repeat business was like 50% or more of my profit. And now it's like 5% of this month or 10% of this month so far, and it's just completely dried up, and it's all ads. And then I told you guys before we started recording, but I accidentally deleted one of my performing ads. So the universe is testing me, but now, you asked me about like, what did I pick up? I picked up the ability to understand how to adapt when I'm in situations like this, and to understand that a slow time usually means a good time is on the horizon.
So I like how you phrase that. So my mentors call it scaling months and growing months, right? They're like, whenever things slow down a little bit, that's your time to grow. That's your time to learn. And whenever things are popping, that's your time to scale. And like they drilled that into our brains too. Whenever in that mastermind I was in, they're like, if the money is coming easy, go hard.
Yeah.
If it's not coming easy, learn, right? Because one thing we were talking with Ken about this last week. Ken's been doing consistently 5-6K a month in profit during the slowest months of the year, like up until September, like February through September, they're the slowest months of the year, and you've been doing a consistent 4 to 5 as well. The crazy thing about that is if you're doing 4 to 5 during those months where most people aren't even flipping phones, you're going to do 10 to 15 with the same amount of effort, funny enough, during, November, December, January. Like those are the best months of the year. Just because, that's just when people are buying and they're selling and they're doing their stuff, that's just what it is. But I think you got some good months coming up, dude. I'm excited to see what you do in the next couple of months, just based on where we're at and the knowledge that you have that you didn't have a year ago. And you've also been through the seasons of the business now a little bit too, which is very powerful. I get people in my DMs all the time. Been doing this for going on 9 years at this point. Every year, without fail, people reach out. They're like, what do you think about the new iPhone launch? I'm just like, another iPhone launch, man. Like it's the same stuff, different year, like the same thing happens every single year. Quick story, whenever we were, so I grew up on a shrimp boat, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. But my dad, he'd been doing it for so many years that he knew, like almost without even tracking it, where they would be at what certain time of the year, because he'd just been through it so many times. And so like the same thing happens in this industry. Is like you start seeing the slow months, but you've been doing this for 2 to 3 years, and you're like, oh well, yeah, it was slow last year too. Okay, and especially if you've been tracking your numbers, holy moly, like then you can just look, and then it becomes a data thing, and you're just like, oh, it was slow last year this time too. Okay, no problem, not a big deal.
Yep.
So you just you accept it, and you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll just learn some new stuff and apply it when the leads start slapping,
And that is precisely what I'm doing. I went through that process because I'm not going to lie, like part of my brain is freaking out, like throughout the day, throughout the week. I've gone through and questioned every decision I ever made in my entire life in the past week. And what I had to do actually, oh my God, I want to tell you guys this actually, because this will give you a glimpse into what life of a flipper is like sometimes and what the reality of going full time is. In that business, you got to spend money to make money. And so I just spent a lot of money, and it was just the beginning of the month where, I had some bills that were stacking up as well. And I just shipped some packages out, so I knew money was coming back to me. But I looked at my bank account and I was like, it can't be that bad. And it was fucking $1,200. And I was just like, what did I just make the right decision? Did I just screw myself by by going full time right now? And then I had to do the math. I had to say, okay, I have 3 boxes that I just shipped out. How much money is about to come back to me? And then I was like, okay, I'll be at about 5 or 6K once this comes back to me. How much eBay stock do I have? Okay, I got another 2 or 3,000 over there. I have 3,300 in gift cards, and I was waiting for the gift card percentage to increase. So I was like, I'm over 10K. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm fine. Like, we're good.
Yeah. A little thing that I started doing so that's a cash flow thing, right? So, but yeah, when you look at the bank account and all of your purchases are like, all of your money is in the purchases. It's like, it can be a little nerve wracking. And it's like, okay. Like, can I still even buy stuff, or do I got to shut the business down for the day? You know? I have so much inventory.
And sometimes that's okay though, also.
Yeah, that's okay. One way I learned how to deal with that was, especially early on, is like I worked with direct buyers and stuff that would, like, they would take 1 to 2 phones, right? And they were okay with that. So I would just invoice them. And even though I was taking the percentage on the PayPal fee, I was like, I don't care. I need the cash and I need to just keep using it. So like, that's why I take photos and stuff whenever I buy something almost immediately, because, and I think we've talked about this before on a student call, the buyer's high, right? At least that's what I call it. As soon as you buy something, you need to get it listed. Otherwise you're going to fall out of the buyer, what I call the buyer's high. Because the faster you list it, the faster it sells, right? Or the faster you get it or whatever. And then the gift card thing. But yeah, like, whenever things start getting spread out and there's not as much liquid available, it can be a little nerve wracking. But then that's why I like to have the sheets. And my wife does this, so I'm a little. She helps me out a lot with that. Like, she'll go and she'll like track what we have in eBay listings, and she'll track what we have in this and that. And like, if I look at the account, there's only like $4,000 available, but I got like 15 or 16 everywhere else. I can see it in a list of how much I actually have. And I'm just like,
for hire, or is your wife for hire?
Is she for hire? I mean, she is working on bookkeeping stuff, so possibly. I mean, that's actually something we're looking into, because she's so good at it. It's ridiculous. But I mean, I built the spreadsheets, so I made it pretty easy, but she's much better. It's funny, like, that part of the business, the tracking is so mundane, but it's like, it's the most important part of the entire business. Because if you don't know like what is happening, or where your money is at, or what inventory you have, it's very difficult to like keep things moving. Me personally, I'm much better on the front end. I'm better at the ads and the negotiation and the talking with customers. Like, that is me.
Same.
I've built the spreadsheets and I'm good at that, but do I want to fill those things out? Absolutely freaking not. But it's also the most important part of the business.
Yeah. And so that brings up something else that I've learned, which is that, you can hire out the things that you're not good at, and you can pay attention to your pitfalls. Like, there are opportunities to grow. And I've talked with you guys about this. There are opportunities to, if you're reluctant to list things on eBay, you can go through that process and fight through that resistance and build that skill. And it's okay to recognize, hey, every time I buy something that requires me to list things on eBay, my cash flow slows down, because I just find that I'm not listing those things as quickly as possible as I could be. So do I want to work on that, or do I want to hire someone to do it? Maybe for me, because it's not something that's a strength of mine. And I've consistently proven to myself over several months of doing this, maybe I'm just not good at that. maybe that's not my strength, and it slows me down and it bogs me down and it, drives me crazy. So maybe I just hire that out.
Yeah. No, it's a real thing. I mean, I'm a little different in that way. For some reason, I have to like have a basic understanding of the process. Like I can't just hire it out right away. I have, and this goes back a little bit to when I hired a couple of people a couple of years ago, and this is probably a fear-based issue of mine actually. Is like I hired some people to do something, and I hired the wrong people because I wasn't good at hiring people. And all they were telling me was, "Oh yeah, it's going well, it's going well," and I'm like, "No, it's not going well. Like the thing is not working correctly." And it was a drop shipping thing, being real. Like didn't work out in the end, and I figured out that they were not doing anything. So, and it's because I didn't have any basic understanding of actually what was happening.
Yeah.
Now I have that fear. Like if I don't understand the basics, at least, of what is happening here, I can't hire it out yet.
I'm with
that could be a limiting belief of mine, and it probably is, and I'm okay with that.
Well, you can manage them well. You can, I mean, if they're not doing it, sure, if they're not doing it the right way, that's an obvious, you can correct them. But even if they're not doing it the most optimal way, if you learn the optimal way, you can teach them.
Yeah. So, well, let's go on the topic of goals, man. We'll be wrapping up here in a couple of minutes, but over the next couple of like months, let's say 6 months, what's the goal?
Well, the short term is that, as based on our conversation literally yesterday, I want to form the LLC and the EIN and get Google Ads up and running. And I am kind of in that growing phase, as you pointed out, rather than the scaling phase. And that's something I kind of had to wrestle with my brain to allow myself to do that this week, to understand, like, I'm just going to print the business cards and get the Google set up and lay the foundation. So the goal for the next 6 months is to go through the process of laying down the foundations, and going through all of my processes, trying to fix some things that aren't working, like the not listing things on eBay quick enough. I'm not going to hire that out immediately. One thing I have thought of is adopting the thing that you do, which is just listing it the second you get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get like a kit together with microfiber cloths and alcohol and just bring that to every meetup, right? So you can clean the product there and then just go ahead and make that happen. So I want to go through all my processes, write them down, and fill in all the gaps. Another thing I'm not doing well, like I said, is tracking. So I need to figure out how to do that. Another thing I've thought about is bringing the laptop to the meetup and plugging in the IMEI and the item into my price sheet right then and there, rather than waiting till whenever, because I don't have any structure around that right now. So
little tip on that, bring the laptop with you to your meetups, do the tracking while you're waiting on the customers. That's what I did when I was doing it.
Yeah.
My wife handles a lot of it now, but like whenever, like, so I have like 30-minute segments that I carve out for the meetups, or 30 minutes to an hour. And like that is like very focused time for me on the reselling business, right? Like I'm literally waiting for a customer, right? And I'll show up sometimes 15 minutes early, and like it puts me in kind of a zone for some reason. And then I'll open the spreadsheet, type the stuff in, and it doesn't take as long as I thought it would take either. But it's like I just put it off and put it off and put it off and put it off, and it doesn't take long to do at all. That's just a little tip on like what I did. Obviously my wife does a lot of it now, but yeah. Just try and like weave things around the same time you're doing other stuff. That way it kind of keeps you in the reselling zone, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. And that is the intention. That's what I wrote down. These thoughts were coming up as I was getting ready for the interview, and I took some notes beforehand, and that is an idea I came up with, just like bringing the laptop to the meetup and just getting it done.
Yeah. Otherwise you'll just sit there and watch reels or something,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real.
Oh,
I mean,
oh
hey,
dear.
I do it right, so I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Um, but like sometimes what I'll do is I'll just bring my laptop, and if I don't have anything to do, I'll just look at my ads and look at some things that could be changed, and look at my website. And oh, I need to add some more reviews to my website. Might as well just do that right now. You know, I'm already in the zone. I'm not driving or anything.
Yeah.
It's just what I like. I find something to do. Like the other day, I couldn't find anything to do, so I started some Oculus Quest Google ads. And I was like, might as well try it, you know? And yeah. Matt, do you have anything to add? We got about 5-ish minutes left.
Yeah. Kevin, I think that I think there's different sets of limitations that often tend to challenge people. I think for you, I think a lot of these boundaries, to some degree, were maybe more personally defined, just
Mhm.
as you were working through, I think, the desire to be healthy, mentally, emotionally, relationally. Um, but then also to try to craft a business while you were like migrating through that. Um, I don't know, what would you say to anybody who just feels a little bit kind of just stuck? Because I feel like that's kind of like accurately describes like the first conversation you and I had was like you're like I was onboarding you and you were like, this has got to work. I need this to work. I don't
Yep.
know if this is gonna work, but I was like, okay, my man is someone gave him a brush and some paint and he's in a corner. Um, so like I feel I feel like I feel like that can be a pretty common narrative for a lot of people though. So what would you say to those people that just kind of feel stuck, but honestly they still kind of believe in themselves, like that they could do this? What would you say to those people?
I would say keep going. But I would also say don't be ashamed of seeking help in whatever capacity uh, you need.
Yeah,
And you might not know what capacity that is. Having the power of a community
uh,
that's doing the same thing, and coaches and people keeping you accountable is really important.
yeah,
But also, trying to do things, like I've been doing, like trying to prioritize my health, working with a mental health counselor,
yeah,
recognizing that, I do need some level of socialization and support and friendship in my life.
yeah,
I would argue that we all need that, right? But like whatever form of support that an individual needs, I think a lot of people are just, more and more these days, isolated. And,
yeah,
there is this, I would argue, toxic narrative that, or toxic focus on independence. And I
yeah,
think interdependence is essential. And so I would say, yeah, if you believe in yourself and you're feeling stuck, um, do whatever the hell is necessary to get yourself unstuck, whether that's exercising more, seeing a counselor, getting plugged in with the community, prioritizing sleep. Try anything and everything until you figure it out. And if you get tired every once in a while, take some breaks.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
That
like
sounds
that.
really practical and
On
helpful.
that. Well, Kevin,
Try to be.
hey,
Yeah, yeah. No,
this is
thanks,
awesome,
bro.
man. I think you shined a light on a lot of like issues that a lot of flippers have, as they're kind of growing through everything. And
Yeah.
I see you doing, I can't wait till you hit your first 10K profit month. And
Hey,
I feel like that's going to happen a lot sooner than you think, especially with the holidays coming up. But yeah, man, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Is there any last words you would say to, let's say somebody who is on the fence of Recelerator? Um, Obviously, it's an expensive program.
Mhm.
What would you tell somebody on the fence, like whether like because a lot of people are like, can this really help me? What would you tell those people?
So my first thought was, if you're ready to put in the work, then do it, because it's going to provide you the tools to put in the work. And then my second thought is, there's never going to be a perfect time. And we can convince ourselves on and on and on or try to convince ourselves that we're not ready or we are ready. And ultimately, you just got to keep falling forward and learn as you go. And so if it's something you're interested in, then go for it. If this talk and the other talks have been appealing, then Chris has so many videos. So if they've been appealing, it seems like something you want to do, go for it. The coaches are supportive and the community is great. And yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it off.
Well, guys, this has been another episode of the Smart Flip. If you're interested in Recelerator, feel free to reach out. It is an invite-only type of thing. We don't take everybody. We actually decline more people than we take. So, but feel free you can reach out to me directly. You can fill out the form in the description. We also have Console Kings available as well. Definitely recommend looking into that. That is Matt's course. It's a warehouse full of information when it comes to consoles. Literally over-the-shoulder videos of Matt finding deals, and it's amazing. So, with that being said, guys, this has been another episode of the Smart Flip, the Phone Flippers podcast, and see you guys on the next episode.